Welcome to the Deal by Me podcast, where we ask guests to tell us your story. Hello there. This is Dr. James W. Smith, your host. We seek to transform lives by encouraging and inspiring. Someone encouraged and inspired this host, a former lawyer, gambler, inmate, and his life was transformed. The same can happen to you. So when you listen to any of the Deal by Me podcasts, please support this podcast with a donation or a monthly recurring amount for as little as $3. What about a shout out to supporters of this podcast? Reverend Quincy Davis, Dr. Lynn Henderson, Kenneth and Donna McDuffie, Olivia Mabro, Clint and Johnette Cozart, Leonard and Cynthia Meekins, and John McLaughlin. Check out my encouraging, inspiring, and transforming books. I'm available for speaking engagements, in-person, and virtual seminars. So please contact me through my website, www.dealbyme.com. I have with me Traycee who unapologetically believes that people don't need to be treated fairly. They need to be treated as the unique individuals they are in order to thrive and succeed. She is an expert in helping leaders leverage the strengths of human connection to achieve explosive success in their own careers and with those they lead. She is an awesome guest, and I am very thrilled to have her come and share with this podcast today. Traycee Maya, it is good to have you with us, and I'm asking if you will just tell us a little bit about yourself and where you've been interviewed from.
Wonderful. Well, it's so thrilling to be your guest today, Dr. Smith, and it's an honor. And I'm calling in from Southern California, down here in Anaheim, near the Big Mouse House. And I am an executive coach certified by UC Berkeley recently in the last couple of years. But more importantly, I guess, is that I've spent 43 years of my life leading others and helping them to see the value in themselves. And I didn't realize that until about 3 years ago, when I had a bit of an epiphany on a hike I was on, that as much as I was working to encourage others and had some experiences with my bosses who were not very encouraging or inspiring, that I was always being myself and doing it that way since I was young. And it prompted me to write a book last year, which just came out about 3 weeks ago. And now I can just share my passion, share my truth, help other people see the value in themselves, that all of us have that inherent value. And that's where I'm at today.
Well, Traycee, I appreciate you sharing that with us. I've had the opportunity to read your profile and to just learn a little bit about you. You are an exciting guest and one who I know listeners of this podcast will appreciate listening to what you have to say. And I know that you written the book. I think it talks about leadership contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
A very interesting title, I guess. Maybe I should put it. So I want to ask them, one, what inspired you to write that particular book entitled The Leadership Contradiction?
Yeah, thank you for asking. That's a great question. The leadership contradiction is really me calling out leaders.
Okay.
In some cases, even myself. When I reflected back on my career, I didn't always do things perfect. In fact, I made some things that I referred to previously as mistakes. And as I've grown in maturity and spirituality, and emotionally, I've realized that they weren't mistakes at all. They were lessons for me to learn. But the leadership contradiction is calling out, myself when I did those things that weren't perfect, but also other leaders really focused on their own egos and their own missions that don't align with the people that they're leading. And in my opinion, that disqualifies them from being a leader. It's a contradiction, because their behavior, their lack of care for their own employees,
so are you
them away from, yeah.
Okay, I think I get you. So are you saying that they're, and being a minister, I can see this in another way. Are you saying that their words don't speak as loud as their actions, or vice versa? There's a contradiction in this. Is that what you're basically saying in terms of their leadership style? They talk about one thing and they do something else. Am I correct in that analogy?
You are correct. And
Okay.
it's probably important to bring up the subtitle also, which is so the leadership contradiction, choosing a path of love and kindness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think the subtitle is certainly represents the direction and the perspective that I've come from in leadership, and have come to find out through having my own bosses that weren't very supportive or kind or caring or encouraging, and realized that the love and kindness that kind of, if you could take that apart, love had been turned into something that was more of a 4-letter word in the workplace, where people didn't use that word, and it seemed like something incorrect, when at the end of the day, as human beings, we're taught to love one another. And that is really important when I talk about the contradiction, that's the path I chose of love and kindness.
Okay.
And kindness being, just not just nice to people, and like, as you said, saying words that don't really mean anything, but actually being kind to others.
Okay.
So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. I love this. I love how you dealing with this. You state in the beginning of your profile I was reading, where you talked about you unapologetically believe people don't need to be treated fairly. They need to be treated as the unique individuals they are in order to thrive and succeed. Very interesting statement. Could you kind of elaborate on that a little bit for listeners of this podcast?
Yeah, I'd love to elaborate. I know that at first glance, some people have thought my comment to be controversial, but it's not. If the full statement is read like you just did, I have felt in my experience in leadership that I've had bosses have said to me, make sure you're treating people fairly, and I remember saying to one president of a company that I reported to, and I said, I feel like that is less than what the people I lead deserve, because there is more to them than just being fair. And of course, when it comes to diversity, when it comes to human relation issues, of course, there should be fairness. I'm talking about the fairness where, let's say, one of your employees misbehaves and the senior leader calls everybody into the room and reprimands the entire group. Okay. Then the folks that are doing a good job and putting their heart and soul into their work leaves feeling disappointed and downtrodden, because they of course take it to heart and they think that they did something wrong, and yet the person who was misbehaving, didn't get the message at all. So that's what I mean about fairness. Sometimes people take fairness too far and don't realize that, if there's a problem at work with a particular employee, the leader needs to be courageous and have that conversation privately. And then they need to look at the other employees and make sure that everybody is respected and acknowledged for the unique skills that they have. What I have found in my career is that being caring and kind and loving to my employees and seeing the uniqueness that they each bring to the table and supporting them in that way has allowed me to have tremendous success, both financially as well as in my career. And then the bonus is that these individuals get seen and heard and valued, and they get to be their best selves. And that's what I mean by not treating people fairly. There's just so much more than just being fair. We stop at that point sometimes, and we need to go further. That's what I'm getting at with that comment.
I got you. I hear you well, and it has resonated with me, and I'm certain it will resonate with listeners of this podcast. So it makes a lot of sense. So I don't know any other way to say it, but you're doing a great job at sharing this with us today. So let me ask you this. What do you say to those who say that love and, kindness will distract you from meeting positive bottom lines? Because most people feel as if you ought to be loving, you ought to be kind. And so when you talk about how this might distract you, how do you explain that to folks?
Yeah, I think those that are feeling like it's a distraction are too focused on their own self and not on the people that they lead. And when I talk about leadership, it's not just in the workplace. It could be in a family, it could be in a community group. When we're in a leadership role, it is part of our responsibility to love and care for the people that surround us. That's what allows us to be a leader. Other than that, we're just a boss, or we're just somebody who's in charge. And I believe a true leader brings out the best in other human beings and sees them for who they are, our flaws and all. I have my own flaws, and some of them are shared very, very openly in the book. When I was younger in my career, I was asked to be, fit into a certain mold and do this. And to be successful as a young female executive, I had to go to, cocktail parties and network, every night and see how late I could stay out so that I could get credit for doing my job. And, what I realized down the road was that, I crossed a line with the whole cocktail situation, and it became a dangerous place for me, and it became a slippery slope. So, yeah.
I understand that. I really do. I'm sitting here, I'm intrigued by your conversation, because I've somewhat been in that same position. I practice law, and end up being a gambler. So, it's easy to go from one to another one, and you find yourself losing your focus, and then you are at a point where you don't want to be. So
right.
I hear you very, very well. I have listeners of this podcast who always looking for somebody to say something to them. They're going through something. They're dealing with this issue, that issue. They may be, working in an environment that's not healthy for them. They find themselves depressed. They find themselves going through this or that. And they need something. They need somebody to give them an encouraging, inspiring word. If that's the situation that you find yourself in, and I'm asking you to share with somebody who is in a like situation, what would you say to them?
I love that. I would say that every day is just 24 hours. And though we may be experiencing difficult things today,
Mm.
that when the sun sets at the end of the day, we have an opportunity to restart and begin again tomorrow.
Wow. Wow. I don't know if you can say anything else. Wow. Wow. I hope listeners that y'all hear that. Say it to us one more time, Traycee, please. That's awesome.
Well, it
Please.
came from my heart, and I've never said this, so I will see if I can repeat myself. So, I believe that we each have 24 hours in a day, and that even if things are not going well today and we're struggling, remember that when the sun sets at the end of the day, we have an opportunity to start again tomorrow.
Wow. Powerful. Powerful. Well, all I can say, listeners, don't go in a place. I've got a few more questions and have Traycee share a little bit more with us. But first of all, I want to ask Traycee, if listeners of this podcast would like to know more about you or where they can get your book from, and just more information on you as a person, how would they go about doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is called beuleadership.com, and it's spelled BEYOU,
Okay.
leadership.com. You can send me a message from the website. You can book a 30-minute free consultation. You can also go to the leadershipcontradiction.com, which leads you back to my website to the page about my book. You can find out more information there and purchase the book from a link there. I'd love to hear from everybody, and I'm also going to give away 3 copies of my book signed for the first 3 people who want to reach out and just send me an email or a message or book a consultation. I'd love to meet you and get to know you, and maybe share a few words of encouragement for you directly too.
Well said. Thank you so much for sharing that with listeners of this podcast. What are the benefits of having a certified coach with your background and experience?
Yeah. So I've been coaching my entire career as a senior leader. I was 25 years as a general manager in full service hotels, facility management, venues, another 10 plus years in other senior leadership roles. So I have experience for one thing, but as a certified executive coach, I have the training that's very specific to meeting people where they are. When I set about 3 years ago to look for a certification, I found that UC Berkeley had a different pedagogy that was so much more compassionate, so much more heart and feeling, and discovering the true meaning behind the struggles that people I coach are going through. And sometimes it's very specific to the workplace, to managing people, places, or things. And other times it's within the human themselves, within our hearts, within our minds, the struggles that we go through that affect our lives. So I feel like they taught me to just, listen and hold space. And so as an executive coach that's certified, I think there's another several layers of depth to me that allows me to help more people.
Wow. Oh, you have just given us so much to just chew on. This has been awesome. Tell us more about the slippery slopes in leadership. Because a lot of people would love to, move and be in the direction that you are in, do some things that you're doing, because your resume, your profile is just so profound and so accomplished. But there has to be some ups and downs as you've gone through what you have done. Talk to us a little bit about that, these slippery slopes that you go through in leadership.
Yes. So I do talk a lot about it in my book, and slippery slopes are those places that we feel like we need to put ourselves in order to be accepted by others.
Mm-hmm.
I talked briefly about the, cocktail party, the networking that a lot of corporate businesses and otherwise tell you when you're a young executive that you got to show up, you got to network, you got to be at the places where all the big guys are so that you can, be around people who have an impact on your career. And we start doing things that take us away from who our true selves are. So that's an example of one. I think, just other behaviors that come up in society where we are trying to fit in. We are trying to show that we're, qualified for this particular work group. When at the end of the day, I truly believe that being yourself, as long as you're a good human being and you're being honest and acting with integrity, that you can avoid some of those slippery slopes.
Mm-hmm. Now, I assume that all of this that you are sharing with listeners of this podcast today are things that you talk about in your book, The Leadership Contradiction. Am I correct?
That is true. There's lots and lots of stories in there. It's really about my leadership journey and my life.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So if someone were to get your book, then all the best we've talked about today would be something that would be highlighted and shared in your book, The Leadership Contradiction.
Yes, and there's so many great ideas that you could take away from reading. I've had many people send notes to me saying that they have to stop after each chapter and they've got it flagged and dog-eared because there's these ideas that they can interact with immediately. And again, it's not only at the workplace, but it's with other human beings, even complete strangers that you see in the market or on an airplane or at the gas station. It's just anybody that you come across, you can be a better person and treat others better by some of these ideas that I share.
Wow. Well, Traycee, you have just been fantastic. And to just hear you share about this book, The Leadership Contradiction, has just been great. I'm certain that listeners of this podcast can appreciate what you have said to us today. Is there anything else that you'd just like to point out before we end our conversation? I'm just excited to talk to you.
I'm excited to talk to you too, and I just feel so grateful to be here today. I would say one last thing would be the next 5 people you come across today, whether you're on a Zoom call or you're in person, is take a moment, 30 seconds, and really ask them how they're doing. Don't think about what you got to go pick up at the market today, but look into their eyes and listen to what they're saying. Everyone needs to be seen and needs to be heard for them to feel valued. And we are moving way too fast today in this society and worrying about too many things that are outside. If we just take a moment to stop and really look at another person in front of us. So I challenge everyone listening. Next 5 people you come across today, see what it does for you as well.
Wow. And there you have it. Traycee Myers sharing from her heart and from her soul. What a powerful interview this has been. And I'm so grateful to have had her come and share with us today. And until next time, peace and blessings to each of you.